What time is it? Podcast time. It's a celebration. Welcome to the It's Your Effin' Journey podcast. My name is Melissa Hemming. And if a podcast host, I was going to say a podcast host, a life coach, and a therapist had a baby, you would get me. But it's really just if a therapist and a life coach had a baby, you would get me. I am so excited for you to hear today's episode. Where is my little book? I may have used it as a prop. Okay, no, here it is. I have the wonderful Erica Rasmussen. I hope I pronounced that right. Rasmussen, the writer, the creator of the Marathon Mindset. This is an amazing book. She was kind enough to send this to me before I traveled to London and France or Paris, and I read it on my travels and I just loved it so much. So she is on to talk all about her book, all about her mindset, all about her amazing journey with running and really taking ownership of her mindset. If you've been here a while, you know I believe in mindset over everything. And once we tackle these things that she talks about, grit, grind, grace, growth, and gratitude, the world becomes everything that you want it to be, and you can chase after your goals. And the marathon mindset is not just about running, it's about going after your goals. So I think you're going to love this conversation. I am so excited to bring it to you, and I can't wait for you to go out and get the book. If you look in the show notes, you'll find the link to purchase the book. You will also find how to follow her on Instagram because she's so inspirational. So without further ado, here we go. Hello, Erica. Welcome to the It's Your Effin' Journey podcast. I am so excited you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. So I have been talking about you, I feel like nonstop, like the rainbow, the marathons, but you have had like such an amazing journey, and I was so excited to see you on the course in London. But so just a recap. Well, first of all, you have written this book, Marathon Mindset. So good. I read it.
Yes.
I started on the plane to London, and what a like there's so much that I loved about it, and I took notes to talk about some of the things and some of the takeaways that I had. But what a great book, not just even for running, but just for goal setting and like getting yourself in the right mentality, because that's what goals is. You have to have the right mindset to keep coming back. And we're going to talk about all of that, but just amazing. So you ran the Boston Marathon the Monday before London, then hopped on a flight to London and ran the London Marathon in a giant rainbow cardboard costume.
Yep.
Like, I mean, like, and so the reason that this is mind blowing to me, I mean, it's amazing in general. It was so fucking hot that day. I was so hot running through all the sprinklers, like eating ice, shoving ice in my bra, and you're in a cardboard rainbow. And then I see you on the course and your face was just bright red. You were like, I'm so hot. Like, it's like I think you said it's like a sauna in here.
It was like a mobile sauna for 26.2, well, more than that, miles. It was brutal. However, it was for charity and raised awareness for all these kiddos. I ran for a charity called Victa, who helps blind kiddos be active and do cool things like surfing and summer camp and skydiving. And so, with their mission, it helped me. Plus, I knew like after running Boston just 6 days prior, I had to go have a lot of fun in London. And I wouldn't say that running as a cardboard rainbow is now my iteration of fun, but it definitely presented a new challenge and I overcame it. And, yeah, it was a day. And I was so grateful to see you mile 15 because that was
I know.
amazing.
That was like I mean, you can't miss you, right? You're like a giant rainbow. Like, so I see you and I'm like, oh my God, it's her. I mean, you must have had so much, like so many people that you talked to on the course just because of the way you were dressed. Like, I'm sure everyone was like, oh my God, right? Like on the sidelines, I'm sure they were screaming. You were on the iFit running.
Nordic trip. Yeah.
Oh, God,
Yeah,
I
and
wish I
like
had
BBC,
that.
yeah, BBC stopped me before Rainbow Row at mile 21 and was like, "Hey, can we chat?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll take a break," you know. And I think that's been, honestly, it was the most unique way I obviously have ever ran a marathon. But normally it's like, all right, you start the race and you are gonna crush this and do your absolute best. And my absolute best had to look very different that day, but I definitely got by with the crowd and the runners, and I mean the amount of kids that were so excited, their eyes lit up. You would think that, I was like a Disney princess or something, right? So
You
it was
were a
very
Disney
fun.
princess.
And I think at some narrow parts of the course, I felt really bad because I took up half the course. My costume was so large, but people figured out a way to move around me.
You can't hate the rainbow, right? Like,
And even like I had to gain momentum on some downhills. And so like honestly, I did not train in this costume. I was training for Boston Marathon. And again, this rainbow thing was going to be fun. And so there were some points where going down, I mean, obviously London wasn't very hilly, but there were times where I had to pass and I had to like, I mean,
oh yeah,
maneuvering in the rainbow was very, and it will make me forever be grateful for every single running race after where I'm not a rainbow
yes.
because um it was hot, and plus I was holding up the costume a lot because it was like disintegrating, like the amount of sweat, right? It was a sauna. So coming like it was like crumpling inside. It was soaking wet. So like you were running through the sprinklers, I was avoiding them like the plague. It's like rainbow
Oh
don't need no
yeah.
rain. And yeah,
No,
but it also the marathon of life is real too, and I think that every step of my journey got me to this point in the adventure where it's like, yeah, you can handle it. Here you go. Let's do this.
honestly, I wish, so I started reading this on the way to London, and I honestly
Yes.
wished I had waited until on the way home to read the whole thing because I think I was just so, not that the first half was great, it was great, but I think seeing you in action that day just gave me a whole new appreciation for it. I don't know. I just loved it so much, and I loved sort of having had seen you out there and then reading all about how you got there. And I think I appreciated it so much because you really do have built so many of these things, these grit, grind,
Yeah.
grace, growth, gratitude, in order to go out on a race course like that, be okay with whatever time you finished in, understanding the bigger picture to it all versus what time
Yes.
did I finish in.
Correct.
So let's go
Yeah,
back. So
absolutely.
so what, like, when did you start writing this book? When in your journey did you start writing it?
I actually started penning my journal the first day of my first 5K in this journey. So I have a goal of finishing a running race in all 50 states after Boston, Massachusetts. I've completed 19. But my first one was right in my backyard here in Colorado. And I remember just telling myself like, wow, I need to document this and remember from a perspective element like how far I've come and what this is teaching me, because like 6 years ago I could not walk up a flight of stairs without getting out of breath. And then putting my two young kiddos to bed, singing them songs, story time, like it was like a marathon in itself because I just wasn't as healthy as I wanted to be. And so that element of perspective has, perpetuated this journey that I could never imagine actually even liking running, never mind loving it and traveling the world to do it. So then it's like, fast forward, you get into this, rainbow costume. It's like, yeah, okay, I got this. And even right steps before the race even started, someone said, wow, you're doing this pregnant. And they don't know that I've, had quite the health journey to, say goodbye to roughly 100 pounds and hello to a joy of owning my health. And, a year, 2 years ago, that would have absolutely crushed me. But now
Wait,
it's just
someone
this
said
fuel to
that
the
to you
fire.
just now?
Right before the
Ah,
London Marathon, yeah, steps before I
shut
started
up.
out as a rainbow. Yeah, and so I mean that I can't tell you how many times that was in the back of my mind. Obviously, running for charity and having significance of the race, but it was this element of they were trying to congratulate me for doing what I was doing, thinking that I was pregnant, and they did not know that I was not. And I kindly just smiled and kept going. They weren't trying to say anything negative, but at the end of the day, I am not pregnant, and I'm grateful for my body, and the transformation that I've experienced. And, I think that
Holy
goes to show,
shit.
right? Not
Yeah.
everyone knows the mileage of our marathon in life, right? And again, I would have totally been in tears a year or two ago, taking it really personally. But, now I've just grown and evolved to, just realize how much stronger I am now and how grateful I am for what my body can do. That I love my body, and I'm not picking myself apart in race pictures anymore like I used to. And there's just been so much growth. And so, yeah, this book started, to answer your original question, at state one, and here we are 19 states later, and there's just been so much growth along the way. And what I
It's
realized is,
so
like,
much.
this marathon mindset is not just about running at all. It's absolutely about getting after the marathon of life with intention and, joy for the journey. But we do need that grace, which is an element covered, because not every day is going to go as planned. And even though we're like, all right, here we go, rainbow, someone might call us pregnant, and we just got to keep on rolling with it. And not let the, thoughts and opinions of others get in our way, when we know we're so focused on a journey that we got to just keep crushing it to the best of our ability, knowing that, like, it can be hard sometimes.
Yeah. And I mean, what a great reminder that you just don't talk about people's bodies. Like, I know that's a rule
No.
that I have. I don't ever talk
Yeah.
about people's bodies. It's none of my business. And the I always say the least interesting thing about someone is what they weigh. So I
Yeah.
don't want to ever, I know for me, I just went through like a separation in the last 6 months and significantly lost a lot of weight in the process. And people would all the time be like, oh, you look amazing. And I'm like, it's because I'm emotionally going through so much turmoil. But thanks. Like, what?
Yeah.
What? So as long as I'm
Yeah.
skinny, forget what's happening up here, right? Like, skinny is what's the ideal.
And it's, we have to just throw away this whole body image thing. We have to feel good, and the reality is, yes, by making healthy choices, we can feel good. But sometimes when we are in unhealthy states, that might be, to your point, it's a tough, challenging emotional state that can, maybe make body changes that, at the end of the day, you may not be feeling your healthiest. And so when people, do tell me, like, oh, you look great, I'm like, I feel great. And, like, it
Yes.
really is. If
Yes.
we feel good, we are living a healthy lifestyle, and we're making healthy choices. And that just perpetuates to the fire the more we can collect those healthy choices to, feel good.
Yes. Because that's the goal. It's how we feel, not about what we weigh, not about how much we've lost. And so you've lost 100 pounds since you started running.
It's since I was pregnant with my daughter. So she's about to turn 7. So it has been a journey. It's not this, okay, started running, lost a lot of weight. It's, said goodbye to parts of myself and parts of my health that needed to evolve over time. And it's not this quick, boom, press a button. I also learned that running makes me hungrier. I do better in
Yeah.
strength training cycles where it's a different, situation. But I think that over time, and now I actually don't even hop on the scale anymore. But the reality is, being able to take ownership of our health comes in many different forms. And the biggest piece for me was patience and consistent discipline.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you said that about the strength training too, because I think that what I've found works with my body in keeping it strong and feeling good is that combination of strength training and running. I just really love both. I love the lifting, I love the
Yeah.
running, and it just and my body loves it. So I know
Yeah.
what to do to sort of keep it up. And it's funny, like, I haven't run since London, which is only 2 weeks, right? Like, but for a
Right.
runner who's used to a training cycle, I do feel a little lost. But there's also a piece of me that when I finish a big thing like that, like, I don't want to run. Like, I don't want to fucking run right now. So I'm so glad I have a
Yeah.
5K this weekend that I can like get back out there because I need stuff to keep me moving. So yeah,
Yes.
I totally get that.
And having patience with ourselves, right? Every race is
Yeah.
different, and how we feel coming out of one race or traveling internationally is way different than just driving home from a 5K, right? And so
Yep.
knowing that everyone deals with their post-race timing differently of what they do after and when they jump back into things. And like what I've learned through, my 5 marathons in 18 months is grace. We have to pace with grace after. And as, exciting as it might be to want to just jump back into maybe a new marathon training cycle, or whatever it is, it's like, okay, you do you, and don't worry about what someone else is doing, because like you have to like listen to your body and listen to your heart, and avoid burnout, avoid injury, refuel, replenish. And then also like it's a mindset thing, right? Of like, you've probably just put so much aside to get to a marathon, complete the marathon, and dealing with that emotionally, as well as just the other stuff that's on our plate as,
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah.
So it's a weird juggling act, and you come off of
Yeah.
this high of like, oh my gosh, I just finished a marathon, what's next? And like I challenge people to marinate in that what's next, rather than feel like they have to have that answer to what's next. We don't
Yeah.
always have to have that immediate answer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's taking some time to sort of, recalibrate. It's funny though, like I don't know how you feel after, like right now. I mean, and you have a different experience because you had Boston. So you trained for Boston, and London was sort of like the fun. Like you were gonna have the
Yes.
fun and not worry so much about anything. So did you have like a time goal for Boston?
I wanted to be an official finisher. And I think the biggest thing for me, obviously starting as a charity runner, you have roughly, in my case, I was aiming for 6:15 or less, knowing that when I would start and, and whatnot. And with an injury, right? I got injured about 6 weeks prior to Boston. So the biggest thing was like, okay, this may not be your fastest marathon, but darn it, you are going to be an official finisher, and you're going to do whatever you can to make that happen. And that was really challenging, because had I not been injured, it would have been a different situation. So it created a new layer of, okay, this is going to be tougher than it already being tough.
Yeah.
And so I really worked hard to, I did finish as an official finisher with time to spare. I was one of the final 100 official finishers. And it's like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I mean, I came home with
No.
a unicorn medal, and my kids thought I won, and it's
Yes.
like, it's like an SAT score. And I think we also, besides letting go of the body image thing, we got to let go of finishing times. And there are times, and I absolutely respect when people want to get PRs and they want to shoot for a time, but not getting the time you hoped for isn't a failure. I think there's so many other wins to collect. And I think that did cross my mind, because I experienced some pretty crazy pain at mile 20. So I still had about 6 miles to go in Boston. And that thought crossed my mind of, what if I'm not an official finisher? What does that mean? And sure, I wouldn't have gotten the star, all that. But at the end of the day, like, all I've gained and all I've learned doesn't change, and who I've become in this process. And so it really opened up my eyes on the brink of, oh my gosh, if something happens, and there were about 3 miles left, and one of the doctors at the medical stations kind of popped onto course, was right in front of me, and she goes, are you okay? And I did not want to stop. I did not want to, and I obviously advocate for when people feel like they absolutely need medical health to do what they need to do, right? I'm not a doctor, and people need to make their own call for that. Um, and in my heart, I just said, don't stop. Like, keep going. You got this. I knew at the pace that I was at, I would be a finisher. And if I didn't push it harder, I would be okay to finish, with the pain, with the fact that it was rough. But I'm sure that by my face, she could tell that I wasn't maybe my okayest. And so, yeah, I did take Boston very seriously to become an official finisher, because that was my goal.
Yeah.
And then I had 6 days, and boom, there was London. And so, the big thing for me in London was to also cross the finish line there. I did have someone at mile 10 say, hey, we'll babysit your costume. You can come pick it up whenever. And I just, thought about my commitment of like, I made a commitment to myself and, in the spirit of this charity to run 26.2 miles as a rainbow to raise awareness for these kiddos. I'm going to do it no matter how long it takes. I mean, I knew they kept the finish line open until midnight. And although I did hear something on the loudspeaker about 8 hours, and of course, like, it's busy right at the start line, and part of me, I then Googled while I was in the rainbow costume, and it's hard to even get your arms out for water, but I was like, oh my gosh, is an official finisher for London 8 hours or less? So I'm trying to like Google on my phone in the rainbow as it's collapsing, and I'm dizzy, and I just said to myself, okay, I think you actually will be able to finish in 8 hours as this rainbow, and I did. I finished under 8, and I did learn that, that what it actually meant to be an official finisher. You could have finished later, and as long as you finished while the finish line was still up. But I didn't know, right? And so there was this element like, you didn't come all the way over to London to not
Yeah.
finish. Like, even though I was going to finish, so I think there's that
Yeah.
element of, even when it's tough, pushing ourselves when it's tough to the best of our ability. And that's where the grit and the grind come into play. I was like, all right, you are capable of 8 or less in this rainbow. Let's go. The sooner you finish your rainbow, the sooner you can, take it off. And I will tell you,
Yeah.
I was so excited to take that sucker off, rip off a piece of it for my kids, because they're like, Mom, are you bringing that home? I was like, I'm sorry, no. But we have a piece here of, with my bib number, to remember it. And
Oh.
was left by a dumpster and some porta potties for it to stay forever in London.
Did you get the medal with it on? Like were you
Yes.
still wearing? Okay.
They they actually asked when I crossed the finish line, they're like, would you like help getting that off? And I said, I want my medal first. And I asked one of the volunteers to get a video. I handed in my phone, and which was like a really cool memento
Yeah.
of like, here we are. And I mean, it's a great video of trying to, here's this situation of this rainbow coming through. They had to open a separate gate because I was wider to get through, and they put me down this different lane, and there I was, got the medal, and then shortly thereafter said goodbye to the rainbow costume.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it so much. I would have loved to have seen you at the finish line. Oh my God.
I actually, when you're running, right, you're like, I sometimes give myself permission, like, of like, whatever I need to do after I cross the finish line, if I just need to, like, like, I kind of just kept telling myself, like, it's okay. If you need to collapse after you cross that finish line, you do what you need to do, Rainbow. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you just collapse in a rainbow like that? Just, you know. And so I was able to stand and work through it, which was
I love
great.
that you were
I did
calling
not
yourself Rainbow.
and like they were like, go the rainbow throughout the course. Like I was a
Rainbow
unique
Road must have freaked out when you came through.
it was wild. They were very, very excited and
That was my
I mean,
favorite part of the course. That was like what, mile
yeah,
21-ish?
mile 21. Yeah. So, I mean, right, you're like, okay, 5 miles to go. It was such a good injection. It made it of joy. It made it go quicker for sure. Just kind of going through. I
Lines and
wanted it
lines
to
of
last
rainbows.
longer. Yeah. Yeah. It was wild.
And they must have seen you
And then
and
of
just
course,
lost
like,
their minds.
yeah, they were like, whoa. It was, the speaker just, I remember them turning and seeing and be like, have a rainbow on course. And the amount of kids too, like throughout the course, wearing rainbows is so
Yes.
popular, right? And so like I'm like, oh sweet, they're wearing my t-shirt, they're on my team. And it was a joy. I think the crowds of London were so special. And the amount of runners too that would, look back and say, you got this, respect. Like they were, I think some people were like, wow, it's hot and this is miserable, but thank God I'm not a rainbow today.
Yeah. Thank God
So
I'm not a rainbow.
hopefully it provided some inspiration.
It 100% because I struggled early on, like way earlier than I thought. And so to see you out there, I saw my friend at mile 13, I saw you at like 15, and it like was just what I needed to
Yeah.
like you said, like I can't be that hot because she's in a rainbow. So like stop complaining and get your ass to the finish line, like. And
And then
my finish
actually,
line pictures, I'm with a guy. I didn't even notice until the pictures. He's in a teddy bear suit, like a fucking
oh
like
my
furry
goodness.
teddy bear suit. And I'm like, that must have been so miserable. But I'm like, when you see people like that, and it's just like when you see, people with, a prosthetic leg or something, like if they can do it, you can do it. Like, and that's like the spirit of a
Absolutely.
marathon, right? Like if you need, you know, to regain faith in humanity, go watch a marathon. Like there's
Totally.
so much inspiration all around.
Yes.
So your first marathon was New York City.
Yes. Yep.
And I was there too in 2023, right? That was your year?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was not a rainbow there, but
You
that's
were
probably
not.
why you
Yeah.
missed. We were in it together. That's so awesome.
Yes. So for you, it was New York, and then you sort of started the six-star journey, or did that happen?
Yeah. I mean, I totally signed up for New York thinking I'd be a one and done. And then after New York, I was like, well, actually, this could be a really cool thing. And I am on a quest to be one of the first women, if not the first, to say goodbye to 100 pounds and finish all six of the original majors. So to be one of the first is amazing. I don't have to be the first. They don't really know the data on that, but being a front runner on that is pretty exciting. And so last
Yeah.
fall, I did Berlin and Chicago back to back. So 2 in 2 weeks, and that was sort of my test for Boston, London back to back. And if that would even be a possibility, obviously it's really hard to get into either or both. And so, of course, finished those, said yes to my charity in London, and no sooner got invited to Boston. And I said to myself, okay, you're going to treat Boston seriously and have a lot of fun in London. And that's what inspired the rainbow.
Oh my God. So now was Berlin and what was the other one? Chicago. Berlin and Chicago. Was that the same
Chicago.
charity
Yeah.
too?
No, so every charity has been different. I do my best to align with a charity that promotes wellness in some way, just because of the fact that, running has helped me take ownership of my wellness journey. And so now for Tokyo, I'll be running in the 26.2 Foundation's Team Inspire team. And they had 3 spots for Tokyo. And I found out last week that I got one. So I will be on my way to my 6th star next March.
Yay! And I'll be there too. And I have to find a way to look for you that isn't a rainbow.
Yeah, I will not be a rainbow.
You need to
Maybe
get
I'll
like a
wear fun
rainbow
socks.
tattoo or something.
I know. I think, for a while I was running races with really fun socks, and that was a good way to, inject joy without it being so cumbersome. So I
Yeah.
will be on the quest for some exciting Tokyo socks, and then you can
Okay.
easily recognize.
So that will be your 6 star. You'll get your 6 star
Yes.
there.
Yes, I will.
Wow. So exciting. And then will you do Sydney, or is that sort of like if it happens, it happens?
I think really, and this is very good boundaries of me that once didn't exist, where it's like, you get to the race buffet and you want them all. And I think really I'm taking it super diplomatically, like I just have Tokyo to focus on, and then we'll see. I know that in my future I want to do a lot more trail running. I live in Colorado, right? So trails are out my back door. So I want to finish these 6 and see. I know for sure it will be a lot of shorter distance running moving forward. I mean, I love half marathons, and so I also really love the Boston Marathon, and would totally do that one and again in a
So was
heartbeat.
that
But
your
also just
favorite?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so part of me is just really at this point today saying, yes, I'm doing Tokyo, and we'll see what happens after that. Even though I really love Boston and feel like I could do Boston every year, it's a lot of effort. fundraising and training and all that. And so I want to just really take Tokyo, get healed, give Tokyo my best, and then just really like keep running, but really enjoying the journey and probably having smaller races. Like I said, I have this 50 state goal, and it doesn't have to be a marathon or half marathon in every state, but I still got over 30 states to explore, and it'll be really fun to do that and see where the journey takes me, knowing that it doesn't always have to be a marathon. And I think that's the other
Yeah.
piece of advice. Like to be a runner and enjoy running doesn't mean you have to do marathons. You know, like the reality is getting out there and having fun and taking care of yourself and, you know, connecting with people, all doing the same thing is just really cool at whatever distance you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I do. I love the half marathon distance too, because it's like a good challenge, but not like it doesn't kill you, right? Like,
Totally. And one thing I've learned, because I'd always done fall marathons, like training here in Colorado, when you have spring marathons or a spring marathon, you're training in snow. I mean, you're training in the heart
yeah.
of winter. I live, you know, at about 8,000 feet, train slightly above that. I mean, Valentine's Day, I was running in about 3 feet of snow with my like, you know, like tracks on and all that, and it's brutal. I'm not a treadmill person, and although we do have an indoor track, 8 laps is a mile and you start to feel like a hamster on a wheel. And so it really isn't as exciting as getting out there outside. And I have this rule where it needs to be 0 or above. Everyone has their own, you know, benchmarks, but then there's some days where it's 0 and cold and windy, and it's like, all right, how are you gonna make this happen? So I also have just kind of learned that, yeah, there's gonna be days that we have to grit and it's hard, but we also have to do it safely. So that might mean moving inside and feeling like the hamster on the wheel. But at the end of the day, like I love moving, I love getting outside, and so it's just hard in snow. And so figuring out training cycles that work with, you know, our crazy Colorado weather. You know, Tokyo will be more snow time, which I'd rather run in snow than ice. I mean, that's not safe. And so you have to move inside when it's not conducive. Snow isn't so bad when the road's, you know, plowed. It's kind of like running on dirt or the beach, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, evolving with the conditions, never mind just training being hard enough. So training for marathons takes a lot of time, and I've been there, done that, got the finisher t-shirt, and I'm excited to commit less time to training while still getting to have a lot of fun in the journey too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, like thinking about Tokyo, I've never I've never had a marathon so early on in a calendar year.
Yeah.
So it will be really interesting because we'll be like deep in the heart of the lot of the mileage in January, you know, like,
Yeah,
and that seems
totally.
wild because usually you're like starting off sort of then, and you know, the timing will be really interesting
Ramping
and
up.
different for me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're
It'll
from
be
Connecticut originally.
I know. Isn't that funny? Yeah, I grew up in Cromwell, so not that far from you.
That's wild. I had no idea. I don't even remember when we connected on Instagram, but like it's so interesting. And then we have a mutual friend, Abby, right? Abby from uh was it I thought it was Abby. I might be wrong with the name. That wouldn't be the
I
first
don't know.
time. But there was
That's
something.
exciting.
It was
I do
something
know an
in like,
Abby.
you know, I- I'm blanking at her last name, but anyways, it was during um when you know like when you're posting about the marathon and everyone's like commenting, and I saw a notification come
Oh,
up and she was like, my girls, like you guys know each other, and then I don't know where that is now, so I
oh
gotta look
my
for it.
goodness. I do
Yeah.
too. And that's the wild thing, right? Social media goes crazy after,
Oh
you
my
know, a
god,
marathon,
so
and
much
I feel like
love.
I need Yeah. I didn't even see that one. Oh my goodness. Well, that's
Yeah, it
exciting.
was
Yeah.
it must have been on our picture. I gotta look at the
Oh,
picture that I took on the race course. I bet it's there.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is such
So
a small world.
crazy, what a small world.
And that's what's wild. Like, the people that you run into over time, it is a big world, but then it just gets so much smaller in the running community.
Oh my God. And, I love the running community so much because everybody is just so welcoming and, there's always a new person to meet, like a new friend to meet, like
Yes.
that's what I always say about Instagram. I'm like, Instagram's running community is like the most supportive environment ever. And
Yeah.
especially like, I don't know about you, my immediate family is supportive of my running, but my extended family isn't so much. So to get like the level of support from people that I haven't even met yet in person is just it's unreal. Like, I'm like, what, how can you be cheering so loudly for me and like my mom doesn't?
Well, and like to then meet someone for the first time in person at like us at mile 15 in London, where we both grew up in the same state, but it just like it's amazing. And I think that like the beauty of social media bringing so many people together that we never would have otherwise met, right? We might have
Yeah.
ran past each other. We could have ran past each other in New York and never
I
crossed paths.
know.
Instagram did. And I think that's one beautiful thing. Like, I live in a community where there are more cows than people. Like, I'm on a dirt road. We don't have like park runs or running clubs that like meet every Saturday morning or whatever. And so, like, to connect online and get that inspiration elsewhere is really
Yeah.
powerful for me, especially like as a novice runner when I was just getting going, like to feel connected was really powerful.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so you started the book and so you sort of used your journal entries and then like added
Yeah.
in and what I love about this book, so the marathon mindset is, and I just want to like I don't even know how many people look on YouTube, but it's grit, grind, grace, growth, and gratitude. And you do such a good job of like breaking down each of these categories and explaining it in a way that was relevant into your journey, right? Like how exactly this played out. It's so tactical. Like this is what I did and also this is how I fucked it up and this is how I struggled with it, right?
Yeah,
Like
totally.
it's not just perfect because it's never perfect. And there are
No,
like
absolutely.
it's a journey.
Yes, there's going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be points where like, wow, we're doing pretty well. And then, could have gone better. And, that was part of it. Like, I totally thought this book would have been written by the time you and I crossed the New York City finish line in November of 2023. And it was like, oh, I still have more to go here. And eventually, the more I traveled down the journey, it really helped me realize like, actually, there's these 5 key parts that have been instrumental. And I was able to create this system called the marathon mindset that now, like, I just got off of training earlier this week with Colorado Small Business Development Center, marathon mindset for businesses. And, I got
Oh,
asked to do marathon mindset for fundraisers. So it's almost like this kind of chicken soup for the soul for, I can see marathon mindset for parenting, right? It's the marathon of life, the marathon of business. Like, it's not just running. And I have some workshops that a local nonprofit is sponsoring next week. And they're like, someone was like, hey, I don't run. I was like, please come because it's for the marathon of life and, expanding your mindset. Life itself is far more in depth than just 26.2 miles. And I think the book really helps address that in ways that are practical and shows the reality of, yeah, running inspired a transformation I never would have imagined, but these concepts are so applicable to life. And the reality is like we all have challenges, we all have the opportunity to overcome them, and our mindset is such a pivotal component toward the how of how we live with intention.
yeah. Yeah, and I feel like every runner, every person needs to read it because um I think that, learning to enjoy the journey and embrace how it ebbs and flows and how our goals can change and how, like, when you talk about finishing last in a race, I think a lot of people without this mindset piece would be really discouraged and not want to
Oh,
come
yeah.
back. But you
Yeah.
instead, and I know you've had your moments, right? Like, there's, again, it's not always perfect, but like
Oh,
to
no.
say, like, I still won even if I was last. And like, what
Yeah.
was the race that you did with your kids and you guys were last
Mhm.
and you helped them with that mindset too? Like, I was like blubbering on the plane. I was like, oh my God, like, it's so good.
Yeah. And that was like, I think, yeah, Florida that I did a 5K with my son, we were last place and we knew about a mile in that we were at back of the pack. And then at when it was time to turn around, we were definitely aware that like we were the end. I mean, they were taking signage down and my son at first was like, Mom, like we're coming in last. I go, guess what, bud? That means we get to cheer everybody else on. And he had such a blast. And, it was so beautiful and helping him realize that, like, actually, you don't always have to be first. It's what you can learn in the process. And then we did that same race a year later and we're not last. And it was cool for him to see his own
Oh,
growth
the
and gain
growth.
perspective. Yeah.
Oh my God. I just think that's so amazing. And it just shows how resilient you are. And you kept on pushing and kept on going. And I mean, the progress that you've seen too in your running is amazing too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, we can't just expect, right? We have this goal that it's going to be easy. It's always typically going to take longer and be more challenging than we thought. But, the superpower of consistent discipline that I've gained in this journey is applicable to running and life too, right? And, that's a key piece, and we have to stick with it if we really want to get after our goals with significance. Like, yeah, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be times where we want to give up or we want to quit or we want to just say, not today, but we have to keep going because, what I
Yes. And you know, I always love to embrace the failures too. They don't always feel great in the moment, but when you do, when you are aware that that's where you're going to learn and that there is learning from it, it just allows you to enter it more gracefully, if you will, because you know that growth is on the other side of it. So even if you fail, who cares? Who cares who sees? Who care, and and I loved it so much. I loved also when you said when you talked on page 70, I don't even know what the whole thing is, but I wrote Mom Don't Go because I think in all of this too, like you're traveling all over the world for these races. And I think that there's this it's so hard for moms to leave their kids ever or do anything differently for themselves. And I love that you broke that down, that conversation that you had with your kids, because sure, and my youngest didn't want me to go to London, right? She wanted me to go to London to run the marathon, but she was like, I'm going to miss you so much. And I think that it's so important to understand that even though your kids don't want you to leave, it's still so important to be who you're going to be and how you can inspire them even when you're apart from them. And I love that you said, I forget exactly what the quote was, but like that you're always with her. You're always with her wherever you are. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I love that you share that with them, right? Like I think whenever our families or the people that are important to us understand our bigger vision, our bigger picture, and breaking the cycle of obesity in your family and being a healthy mom that can run around with their kids, they can, even if they don't get it because they're not older yet, they can still get it and they can still be, like you said, part of it and support that. Yeah, 100%. I'm a huge fan of that because I think sometimes we don't give our kids enough credit. And I think that, when you do treat them not as an adult, but you share adult things like that, like those feelings that you're having, they do have a sense of, okay, and I am part of this, right? I did inspire, I have a similar story in terms of being inspired by my kids and wanting to be better for my kids. So instead of looking at like with that lens of you're leaving your kids to travel to another country to run a marathon, hell fucking yes, I'm traveling to another country for my kids to run a marathon, like. So I just love that. I love that. And I think that that's amazing. So has your husband always been supportive of your journey too? Yeah. So you guys have had a total 360 change in your relationship, in your family dynamic, and everything. So did you inspire him to be more active too? Yeah. Which I'm sure helped him being supportive, right? Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like you guys are growing together, which is amazing. Yeah. Yeah. No, that is amazing. So, so you're taking some time off right now. So you ran Boston and you did finish. Of course, you finished in the time that you wanted to finish in. And how did you feel like when you finished that marathon? Were you in pain and were you like, how am I going to do this next marathon? Or did you feel okay at that point? Yeah. Yeah. So now you're taking a break. You're taking 3 to 6 months. Mm. Yeah. Well, and I love that because I'm the same way in terms of injury. Like I know a lot of the running community likes to just like push through. I am much more like let me take the time that I need to heal so that I can come back and not deal with this again. I would much rather be uninjured than like dealing with pain forever. So I get it. I respect it. Let me ask you this. how different, like, you must see so much growth in yourself right now, even going into this injured point, right? Because it takes a lot of fucking work to be like, I'm cool with not running for 3 to 6 months, right? Like, how different, and even like if this happened a year ago, would you have felt differently about this? How would you have, yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's on brand for your goal of wellness, because wellness isn't just I'm a hardcore badass runner. It's I'm caring for my body, my well-being, my mind, all of it. What was when you let the scale define your self-worth, you never win. When you celebrate your body's strength, you always win. Yeah. And only we know what that is, right? Like we know what is important to us or what is meaningful to us. And at the end of the London Marathon, I don't know if you saw these guys, but it was sort of like an extra photo op, and they had like a some sort of like thing that you hold. I don't know what you would call it, but it was like a thing that you hold. And they said to me, "Do you want to take a picture?" And I said, "Sure." And they said, "What was your time?" And I said, "I don't do that." And they were like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "I don't run for time. I run for fun." And I'm like, "If there's something else you can put." And they were like, "Oh, we could put marathoner." And I said, "Perfect. Then that is what you put." And they were like, "We love that so much." But because I'm like, I don't even know. First of all, like when you run a marathon like that, I know what my Garmin said, but it doesn't match the clock and you don't get your official results. So first of all, I don't even know what fucking time I ran it in. Secondly, I don't care. So I'm like, so I love that that is what your like message is just finish lines over finish times, because when it comes down to it, nobody gives a shit what time you ran the London Marathon. They just care that you ran the London Marathon. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, are you there? Oh, good. I don't know. I think I got stuck or something. I don't know what happened. Yeah, no, I totally like that is it, and it is it's a mindset shift. So did you just get much better at telling yourself that at the end of the race or the beginning of the race? Or and I know you work with you work with a nutritionist? So she's like your running coach, catch all, sort of. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love that message of you having to have that mental strength in yourself and the way that you talk to yourself and the fact that you have to be on your own team. Um no matter what, who's behind you. And especially when you think about a marathon, I just think about all the thoughts that I think during a marathon and how self-defeating it can be if you don't have that. I mean, when I think about my London Marathon, I mean, as I said, like from mile 6 to mile 13, I didn't know how to get through. And I mean, I did mentally because I've done it before, but I still struggled. And even though all those crowds were there, it didn't matter. It was what was happening up here, you know. And that the quote that you said on page 35, we have to run towards our goals no matter who is cheering us on and no matter who isn't cheering us on. Sometimes the race feels lonely, but we need to be our own best company. Like that's it with any goal. And I think, especially when it comes to fitness, like I'm sure you run into people who are like this. They're like, I just need a buddy. I need a buddy to go to the gym with. I need a buddy to go on a run with. I need a buddy to do a race with. And I'm always like, first of all, that's annoying in terms of like scheduling, right? Like you just are not always going to have somebody there. Like you have to get yourself there by yourself. Like, sure, I love to run with friends when it works out, but if it doesn't, I still have to get the miles done on my own. So being your own cheer system, your own support, your own coach, if you will, at certain times, that's what's going to help you. And I think a lot of people look for the outwards. Yeah. So where can people get your book? Where can they get this book? That's so exciting. Congratulations. Oh my God. I love it so much. I love it. I just love it. I really like I already have told like multiple friends, I'm like, you need to read this book. I just think it's so, as I said, like applicable to goals and mindset. And mindset is everything. And it really is. It really, really is. And I just think like the way that you sort of weave in all of your stories and the way that you've, overcome so much and conquered so much, it's just so inspiring. So I can't wait to see you get your 6 star in Tokyo. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, it's so funny, like, because when I was reading it, I'm like, oh, I can picture this person. This person has the grit, but they're not very kind to themselves. Like you can see different people that I know that with different aspects, but it is that like combination of them all. And we can't like always rock it, right? Like, you know, we all have our days of whatever, but I think it is so important to understand. And I do love how you like broke it down into examples so that people can relate to it, like just to even come back, as I said, from being last in a race, showing your fucking kid you can be last in a race and you're still a winner. Like those are amazing things to learn. I love it. Oh no. Oh no, I lost her. But I'm going to finish off with the quote that I loved. No matter what pace you're at, it is critical to pace yourself through both the sunshine and the storms. Thank you so much, Erica, for coming on. Everybody go buy her book. It is amazing, and I appreciate your time. See you next week.